for instance, I'll share experience as a mom when I was choosing preschools for my child. Okay. I realized that a gap in this industry is that they don't check the teacher's background. And I think that's a very big problem because I see
they don't check teachers'
qualification background or everything else.
both.
Whoa.
Wait, so for early childhood. Welcome back to Wise and Shine. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, otherwise known as SG Budget Babe. Today we have a special guest on set. Actually, some of you who have been regularly tuning in might recognize him from the other series that we run, but...
Hi everyone, my name is Sian. I am the host for the Chinese Financial Coconut, LiCaiOhYeah.
Oh yeah!
And I wasn't here.
It's not here, but yes, thanks for coming on our show. I mean,
thank you for having me.
It's probably an interesting take for English set, right? Letting people know that Aku is really bilingual, huh? Right? Or maybe trilingual. I think there's a lot more to that. But yes, today we have a lot to discuss, But before we roll into the discussion, I want to give a special shout out to City Music, right? So you see here, we got a new toy, right? So we used to use the Zoom H6. I don't know if you've used a lot of the Zoom H6, right? So Zoom is a great recorder product that we have been using for the longest time. I have 3 Zoom H6. Don't ask me why. But then when we shift to a new studio, we're like, hey, maybe we get some new toys. So we reach out to CT Music and they are giving us this P8, right? So P8 is one of the best of its class. You can see a lot of pattern, you can do all the sound effect. But I will not do it here today. If not, my producers will kill me in post. like what? This sound effect you use, right? Anyhow, use not approved. But yeah, so a special shout out to CT Music and Zoom for providing us this P8. Love the device and let's see where this brings us, right? So in other words, if the audio sounds better, it's not the editor working harder. Huh? It's the equipment got better.
It's both.
It's both. Okay, it's both. So once again, thank you to City Music, right? So we are focused today on discussing this thing on can you actually trust professionals, right? Because recently there's been a lot of saga, right? A lot of things happening, right? Whether is it the childcare situation, and then you were saying there's one more.
Yeah, there was a case of a medical doctor, private practice as well, with many years of experience, and he's being investigated right now. I don't think there's a conclusion, but in short, he's being investigated for possible negligence, which led to his patients being sent for a lot of medical tests that were presumably unnecessary and obviously then racked up a lot of costs.
So he sends the patient to multiple tests.
He ordered the tests for the patients, and then on top of that, there was one death. Yeah, and they're investigating if that death could have been easily prevented if he hadn't gone through all the, saying, oh, you have to go for this test for
So is that like causing the delay of the person to be treated? Oh dear.
I mean, that's what the news article seems to be suggesting, but I mean, we were not commenting.
We refrain from commenting.
Yeah, because it's still being investigated. But I think it raises really good questions, right? Like, how much can we trust professionals? Because in all of these cases, the preschool teachers were supposedly trained, supposedly professional at their work. Even in the medical field, all of us have experience or have had experience with various doctors in our lives. Some maybe, we don't know, might have misdiagnosed some of our symptoms. Some may have sent us for, extra tests that we don't even know is justified or necessary. And it hurts when we have to pay, especially those who may not be fully insured. So how much can we really trust? I guess every single time this come up, it really raises a lot of these trust questions and accountability.
Yeah. So what are your take? Can you trust professionals, or how do you trust professionals?
So how do we define professionals in the first place? Is it the qualification, like the degree certification, or the experience in the field, or what is it for like the both of you?
Okay, so I think for me, a professional is someone that's accredited, right? Essentially, there is some industry standards to this, right? And then usually in some way or another, there will be some organization that chop and say, okay, this person is qualified, right? Whether is it the bar for the lawyers or even in finance, there's a lot of certification that people have to take, right? To chop and say, okay, you are a qualified individual, you can do this, right? So I think on some level, to me, that is what determines a professional. That means an organization, a credible one, has approved this individual based on what they believe, okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, these are the things that they need to have, and then chop, you are a professional.
But there are some jobs that do not have these,
We
right?
name TCM Sensei, for example. Like he can have the TCM cert, but what else is there to credit his like credibility.
Yeah, or like a DJ, a podcast host, like what we're doing now.
It's okay, I can credit you.
Actor, an actress.
It's like, who am I, right? But yes, send me your podcast.
Yeah,
I'll
so if
credit
there are
you.
jobs and roles that don't have these kind of industry certifications or organizational bodies, and some of them they're regulated, not accredited either, you know. So then how would you define based on
Actually,
that?
I would argue that, right, for a lot of people, if it's in that situation, they're not so hard and fast about it, you know. Like you will not like, okay, there are all these influencers, all these actors, actresses, right? Like, okay, they don't do a great job, then so be it, lor, they're lousy. You will not take it as, wow, this person, not good, they're not professional, blah, blah, blah. Maybe some people will say that, you know, but to me, it's not a big cause of concern.
Okay, so then let's lay the stage. We were
only want
focused
to talk
on
about
professionals where there is a certain level of barrier of entry. You do need certain qualifications or exams to pass in order to go through and get certified. And hence that would form our topic for today. Yeah. So that would include, you know, in the case of preschool teachers being approved by ECDA to come and work, having the local equivalent of the certs, in finance, that would be your MAS equivalent, and medical would be SMC.
The doctors, yes.
Yeah. And then of course the TCMs and Sensei's, we kind of don't really put them in this definition then, I guess. Okay, so let's just focus on that then. So how much do we trust?
Wait, before that, right? Are you annoyed or affected by this whole early childhood saga as a parent?
Yeah, I definitely feel it a lot more as a parent.
Yeah.
But I am also from the stand that there are two sides of the story. I can understand if the teacher was probably very worked up. What I don't understand is to what extent was it a case of just her lashing out versus it's something problematic and it's something deeper. Yeah, that we can't really see. But I can understand if someone yells or, you know, I feel tempted to hit my kid a lot of times. But it takes a lot of restraint to hold back, right? And I just deal with 2 kids in my household. I can't imagine, and I know fully well I'm not suitable for the role of a preschool educator at all, because they'll drive me crazy and I'll lose my temper. I don't have enough patience to deal with 20 students in one entire class. Yeah, and like multiple people. I cannot stand it when people cry. It's a trigger for me. So when my kid cries and whines, it triggers me so badly. I either have to step out or I have to tell him can you please stop?
I was going to ask, do you have any occasions where when they started crying, you just walked away?
Have a lot.
Confirm.
Yeah.
But I think that's the basis of being a professional, right? You got to restrain some of your natural urges, right? That's why you are seen as a professional.
That's a good point. So am I a professional mother then?
Yeah. No one is accrediting mothers, right? And no one dares.
Should there be?
You tell me, right? I don't know, okay? But on some level, that is the definition of a professional, other than the cert. A big part of being professional is you may not be in the best state. Like I'm super nasally today, right? Because I'm not in the best state, but I will perform, right? So on some level, you have to
taking the personal out of it, right?
Restrain some personal urges to practice whatever you are practicing to the best of the standards that you've set as a professional, right? So in that sense, that is not a great excuse. You know what I mean? Like I totally get it. I think, I'll be very happy with 2 kids, but not 20 kids, that kind of thing. It's crazy, but yeah, he or she is a professional, right? Like they need to kind of pick it up and restrain themselves, right? That's when professionalism comes in.
So I guess that's where it becomes a bit problematic, right?
Yes.
Because there is this element of being able to take the personal out of it. But we're all humans. And every professional doing a job has their human tendencies. It's very hard. Even though a body or an organization may accredit you, they can't speak of your character. And that's why we still have all these black sheeps here and there.
Yeah. And actually that's why I wanted to bring up this question today, because it feels like every time one black sheep, right, or like one person in the field does a bad thing, right? Okay, you can tell me maybe it's not just one, okay, fair. If it's a lot of people, then there's systemic problems, but there's 1 or 2 that makes it big on media, right? And then the whole baby gets thrown out together with the bath water. Not literally, yeah.
Swimming lesson.
Yeah, but you get what I mean, right? Like everyone is just now suddenly it's like, oh, the whole early childhood is messed up, or like...
Especially for an industry that's still trying to build up its, awareness in the whole Singapore society. It will be a very, very big damage to the whole scene while everyone else's hard work is all devastated by this, say, black sheep.
So do you trust professionals?
Only, I mean the very personalized experience, like despite having that qualification or certification, if this person during my time of having a service with him, or like when he's servicing me, he or she, if
I love how you have to say he or she.
He or she. Right.
must,
Equality.
Yeah, whatever. But yes, please continue.
Yeah, so if they could not make me feel that the thing that this person is saying is making sense, then the qualification that he or she is having is probably just a piece of paper. Or it could be me that is being stupid enough not to be able to understand what he's saying, but it's a professional's job, can I say that, to be able to make the layman able to understand the chim things.
The chim things. Okay, but here's the problem here, right? The Achilles heel of this thing, right? So how do you then evaluate a professional? Do you cede it to the associations? Oh, this person got chopped by this association.
Got the stamp there.
Got stamp, got job. Okay, confirm professional, right? Or do you then go, how do you validate, right? Because I realize a lot of people struggle with
I
this
like
thing.
that he actually threw in one evaluation criteria, despite us already setting the stage. You just added the part that the professional needs to be able to explain things well enough for the layman to understand.
Right, because they are not there to just provide the service. They are there to also help people understand what they are doing so that people have the awareness. Let's say we have a lot of elderlies of like our parents' generation, when they are sick, they will say, that, no, I don't want to go for Western medication because it's poisonous, my liver would die and things like that. But right, okay. It's a very real thing. Like, but the doctors or everyone else in the medical industry need to help them know that the medication is there to help them stop the symptoms first before it gets worse. Like I know a elderly that happened very recently, someone close to me. He's having a blood pressure level of 170, but he's refusing to take blood pressure meds. So, and then they will go for like Sinsays and then all those Facebook ads that are selling like this can change your heart life and things like that. So the professional needs to step in, or like if they don't do the educating part, all these other things, not saying that they are bad, but they are obviously less credited compared to the doctor themselves. They will start making more problems, possibly.
Yeah, forces.
This is where I think it gets very debatable, because if we go with your definition of an organization accrediting them and the exams, they don't test how well you explain. Right? And how well it is explained. The person can be the best teacher. I mean, I used to teach tuition, so I know this very well. You can be the best at explaining, but like what you said, whether the person is smart enough to understand that also matters, right? So if we were to add in that as an evaluation criteria for professionals, then the line gets very blurry, because you could be very good as a doctor, being able to prescribe the right solutions, identify the right stuff. You could be very good as an insurance agent, being able to structure the solutions for your client, but you may be very bad at explaining. And I mean, if you look at the recent pandemic, for instance, explaining the COVID vaccine was not an easy job. And it was not just the jobs of the professional doctors or the nurses. It was literally like a worldwide effort, government stepping in, so much communication just to convince. So should we then just leave that whole thing on? Should that really be a criteria for evaluating professionals?
Because if I were to look back at my memory of my school times during my diploma course, one of our lecturers, he has no degree or no masters, but he's one of our favorite lecturer because
he can explain very well.
He can explain well, and he knows exactly what the industry would want or what we will be facing during the industry. And so he only has a diploma certification, but he has 18 years of experience in photography. So does that make him a professional? Or only the lecturers who has masters, but they are only academically inclined, but they don't know what's going on out there in the market?
I would say yes, because the job as a lecturer falls under teaching, right? So a professional teacher is one who can teach.
No, but once again, it's because you went to an organized school. And the school hired the guy, right? So on some level, the university is accrediting the individual. And it's so common in the unis these days to bring in like industry people to talk, right? I have so many friends that end up, they all do part-time lecturing here, part-time lecturing there, because they have like tons of experience in the industry, and the school start to realize, hey, industry experience is quite important. Can you come in to do a module or two?
So they lump all the experience, qualifications, and also the way that they teach together, and then like being able to get into that job is somewhat of accreditation.
Yeah, the school is the accreditor, right? To validate that this person is a professional. So once again, it goes back to trusting the accreditor, which is the school. right? So I think that's kind of at least how I see it lah. Okay, when I think about professional, right? Of course, there are all the ambiguous parts. Okay, like this person, blah blah blah. Maybe some industries are not so organized, especially in the early days. Any early days of an industry not so organized, and things can happen. Especially like the early childhood one. It's actually quite early days in the industry.
So I would think then being able to explain should be a bonus. It should not be a main criteria. Yeah, because a professional then should be defined by how well they can do the job. And that is what the accreditations are, right? But then whether that job, most jobs unfortunately require communication and explaining. So then your ability to do that would then make you whether you're better at your job versus the other professional.
Okay. But I think we've set the ground for professional already. Like what is considered a professional? Okay, either they have to be accredited by somebody or some body. They must have some sort of track record, right? On some level, decent at what they do, right? And all that, right?
So of course, enough people telling the world that they are doing their job well.
Yeah. So I think the proof of the mass, right? Proof of numbers, right? So I think there are some things that we use to kind of establish like what is considered a professional. But then now the question today is, okay, can you truly trust professionals, right? So what if they got accreditation? So what if they work in a big MNC or a big like hospital, or like they work for a big school, right? And then there are always people that will look at it as like, so what? Can trust me, right? So like, do you definitely trust professionals?
So for me, I don't. But I'm naturally very skeptical, as most of my followers will know
to
me,
start
right?
with the skeptical first, then to really trust this person more.
Yes,
right?
correct. Yeah, so I'm always like very skeptical upfront. The person has to earn my trust. Yeah, so like for instance, I'll share an experience as a mom when I was choosing preschools for my child lah. Okay, I realized that a gap in this industry is that they don't check the teacher's background. And I think that's a very big problem because
they don't check teachers'
qualification background or everything else.
Both.
Whoa.
Wait, so for early childhood?
So I can go apply for an early childhood job right now?
You can go and check. No. So if you're a Singaporean, there are some exams and some layers that you need to go to because there's a local body that tells you you now have the diploma in early childhood or the degree in usually diploma, right? So you do need to go through something. But when I talk about background check, what I mean is this person an ex-convict? Is this person, like for foreigners, is this person a former sex offender in their country? Because there are cases worldwide where these people are on the national sex registry. They go to another country and they victimize more people. Yeah, because, they just never got checked. So I realized this is the issue in the industry, and it's only in recent years, very, very recent years. I realized this in 2018 when I became a mom. In recent years, ECDA has followed MOM's footsteps, where they now say if you hire a foreign teacher, you need to make sure their qualification is legit. So you need to do the background check on the school. Only on that cert, nothing else. MOM now also, right? Now, because there are so many people faking their degrees and buying degree certs, now it is a law as of 1st of September that all foreigners coming in applying for the employment pass has to be checked. It's a law now, okay? It's a regulation.
Nice.
So ECDA is following in that footsteps. However, is it enough? Is debatable. But like you said, it's a developing industry. It's new, right?
Developing is always like that. Huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my experience was, at first I thought like I want to go to a place where the security measures are there. So the teachers must ideally be checked. I must be certain and know that they're not former sex offenders, or at least they weren't fired from their job previously because they victimized a child, right? But no school I talked to was doing that checks. So then I was in the dilemma, right? Then how? Nobody do. I want to push for change also very hard, right? And I tried going to HQ and ask, but it's very hard to push for change. I think in some industries, especially when you have a regulatory body, you need that authority to push down the change, like what MOM is doing on companies, right? So since that was not happening, then my next best recourse was I go to the school, I take the school tour, I look at how the teachers are interacting with the kids, and I form my own judgment. When I sent in my kid, I asked who would be his form teacher and the Chinese teacher in his class. And then after that, I would keep walking by.
Specifically Chinese teacher.
Because there are two teachers for preschool, English and Chinese.
Because the track very clear.
Yeah, not because of the recent case, but because the form teacher is usually the English teacher, and then there will be a the assistant teacher, which is Chinese. Like that's at least how my preschool works. So I would go there, I would ask who are these, I want to talk to them. And then I'll keep, in the first few weeks, I'll walk by, check on my kid. Yeah, so I'll do all of that checks. That was for my number one. And number two, never already, because the English teacher same. Due diligence done already, so can. And then the Chinese teacher, I trust that the English teacher will tell me if the Chinese teacher cannot. Because by then the English teacher had already earned my trust, right? But in the beginning, I didn't know if I could trust them. So what really helped was my conversations with the principal, with the two teachers who were his primary caregivers when my child was in school. And then like my own judgment, what my husband felt of them as a person. Like, she seems quite patient. I don't think she will like hit our kid lah.
In this scenario, right, is there any red flags that you're looking out for when you were like doing your due diligence?
There can be many. So like for instance, if you look at the child, how your child reacts to being dropped off and being picked up can be one sign, although there's also separation anxiety. So it's kind of hard to figure out if they're crying because of separation anxiety or because they're being abused, money, right? Yeah, but you still need to figure out, right? Because I mean, money spent is one thing, but if it's not the right environment for the kid, we will take them out. It doesn't matter. So assessing our child's cues is one. The other one will be on the teacher as a person, right? I mean, the job naturally calls for you to have a lot of patience. That's why it's early childhood. These kids don't understand how not to push your buttons. They don't even know what are your buttons. Only we know because we have developed that awareness, right? So the person themselves must be able to, be very patient. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like the most perfect person at explaining things to the kids, because I also don't know they're so young how much they can absorb. But at least, and doesn't have to be like the most perfect English when talking to me either, because I expect that for like maybe primary, secondary and higher levels. Or for preschool, where the main job is like teach them how to pick up their toys and all that, and then like very basic stuff, it's okay. But the person's character is important. Yeah, and I think I can really safely say that I'm quite pleased and really proud of my preschool and the teachers that they have there, because they're really like very patient. Even when my kid is not, is acting up and all, they have never once I've never seen him come back with like any signs of potential hits or anything. And if any accidents happen, they're more anxious about it than me. They're like, oh, we already put all these things. Yeah, your kid is having a fever. We sponge him already. I'm like, sometimes like fever, I just the thing there, I don't even sponge, unless it's very hot. Yeah, so like I think that is where the individual due diligence comes in. But I have to say, I do that because being a very skeptical person, I also am someone who takes a lot of responsibility for the decisions that I make. And even if I were to outsource my child to preschool, if something happens to my child while he's there, I personally will place a lot of pressure on myself and feel responsible, because I was the one who sent him there. Correct? I made that decision. So if I cannot assess properly, then that's a problem, right? Or same thing if it's a medical thing. If I send like my parent or myself or a loved one to a doctor who I listen to the advice, I don't know whether can, and then I don't go and seek out a second medical opinion and something happens, I will blame myself. So because I'm that kind of person, I hence don't trust professionals until they have earned that trust.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
So you come from the view of trust need to be earned, right? But there's a view that trust is given first. Like you just, because the person is accredited, so I trust the person first until proven otherwise, right? It's the age-old debate between like, do you give him for the goodwill first, to trust the person until they prove otherwise, or you must make the person, accumulate your trust.
It's almost like a Chinese saying that one believes in humans are born evil, and another one believes in humans are born kind.
It's the same vein of thought, right? But what about you? Do you think that's how it is?
But one question that I'm wondering is, what if it's something that we're not so familiar with? Like,
exactly.
Don is definitely familiar with childcare, but what about
after
serious
2 kids,
medical
by
things?
By the 5th kid, very familiar. I know.
Your own
Google. Google is our best friend. I think actually that's a problem of everyone being more educated also, right? we naturally be more skeptical because we know more things now, right? Whereas with the elderly, sometimes it's just an aversion in terms of age and like, I got more experience, life experience than you.
Than your life,
Yeah, correct, right? But then today with people being more educated as well, and with Google, both information and misinformation, people naturally, I find they tend to distrust a lot more. And I give examples. The distrust towards the insurance industry has been rising. Agree?
Again?
No, I think in general.
Has it been rising?
Has it been rising?
I feel like
it's quite bad already.
it is, but I feel like with the people who were born in their maybe 80s onwards, they distrust insurance agents upfront a lot more.
It's not with the industry, right? It's more with the agents themselves.
The person towards the agents, and probably like the whole industry also, because they don't trust many of the agents, right? Until they meet a trusted
they represent
one.
the industry.
Yeah, correct. So that I feel the distrust level between those who were born earlier versus like 80s onwards, where these are the people who all have the university certs because that's where the education reform kicked in, right? I feel they distrust a lot more.
But I felt that there are a lot more people of my generation, they understand that insurance is a necessity.
They understand, but whether they trust the agent's advice and just buys what the agent recommends is another thing.
So they would rather like buy from organizations directly rather than look for an agent.
Probably cheaper. But that's a different discussion. That's a different discussion.
But yeah, so we start to see like this higher level of distrust because I think part of it comes from the person, the receiver, the consumer themselves becoming more educated.
No, but I think he has a very valid point, right? Like if you are not familiar with the thing, how do you learn about it?
That's why Google lah. So
right?
if you go to your doctor.
No, but okay, so Google is one thing, right? But after a while, you and I, we're in the game, we know, right? The third one is a recommendation. Some link here, we push out the stickers around. Yeah, so you know, it gets more and more complicated, right? So that is a different discussion whether the internet is no longer trustworthy because of all these kind of commercial interests. Personally, what I tell people is, okay, you're going to talk to 5 people in the industry,
exactly.
You will kind of get it.
That's why they call it get a second opinion,
but I will say you get 5 opinions.
And it applies not just in like insurance, but also medical and basically everything else where
every professional
it's
we call it.
debatable.
Yeah. I will argue not a second opinion only. I think a third opinion is important.
But must also see whether can pay for it. You know?
Of
because
course,
these opinions also not free.
So you need to know people that's from the industry, like, hey, what do you think of this and that?
Yeah, no, because my partner inherited a whole bunch of insurance, right? Mm-hmm. And then we're like, so what to do? What to keep, what not to keep? Go and talk to a few insurance agents, they will tell you what to do. Right? And then they come back, and then I will review whether TFC approved.
Can you see that is basically our stance, which is that
we collect more information.
Yeah, you are the one who make the decision.
Yes.
All these are just like opinions that help you decide.
Yeah, so I'm not invalidating that. I'm trying to establish a process to think about this, right? Essentially, when you talk to the first person, right, you are empty. You know nothing about this thing. You talk to the first person, it's like, somehow it's insurance, right? You go and ask, and then the person will walk you through, blah, 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 right? So that's your first point of view. You likelihood will be very convinced by this first point of view if you trust the person in other ways. But I have said this again and again, you cannot trust a friend, like a hangout friend, directly as their profession, right? Because I can trust that you'll be a great friend. We can hang out every time things are shitty, you know, but doesn't mean I trust your profession. Right, like you as a whatever, like a
you are an insurance agent.
Yeah, doesn't mean I will trust your professionalism in that skill set. Right, so trust to me cannot be filtered that way. Okay, but that's a different one. So after you get the first one, then you'll be like, okay. Then actually, if you talk to a second one, right, then the second one will attempt to try to attack the first one. Usually is the case, right? In all fields, right? They try to attempt to attack the first one. And then you'll be like, oh, there's a different perspective here, right? So then you get to the third one. By the time you get to the third one, the fourth one, right? You get a general idea where this is.
Like more or less, the answer will be similar to either the first one or the second one.
No, may or may not. You get a few core factors that everyone is looking at. Right, and that is so important. It's like when we were fixing the roof, right? Like recently the roof got some problem, right? Then we were like, oh, need to fix the roof, right? Then go and ask the person to come. First person come in, never even do anything, just say, oh, this one is aga, what price, right? Then the next person came in with a drone. Then we were drone, take a photo. It's like, oh yeah. Then we were like saying, okay, so person A gave us these 3 suggestions at this 3 price point. Then person B was saying, why you need to do the last 2? Because you are already using the last 2. That's why the last 2 is problematic. Why you want to change this to the same material of the roofing? And then you get the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th person. By the time you get a general idea, okay, this is the market rate. This is how it is. This is where are we going with, right? And I feel like it's on the part of the consumer, which is where I bring it back to your perspective, right? You got to take responsibility for that, right? So you go through this comparison process. Eventually, you find a general sense of where things are. Then you take the best in class situation at that point in time, right? And then from there, you kind of develop, right? So. And I think that's my general stance to professionals in general. Not that I don't trust it, I trust professionals, right? I feel like at some point in your life, right, you have to trust professionals. You just cannot do everything on your own. It's impossible, right? It's like, it is what it is, right?
Maybe trust to the extent whereby, like you say, the professionals tend to come in with more knowledge than what we would have because of that barriers of entry, right? But whether we take their advice and recommendations wholesale is a different matter altogether.
Ultimately, the decision making is on us, right?
Correct.
Like personally, I am generally interested in very random things and topics. I was just like, oh, what is this? How does it work? Oh, how is this? How does it work? So anything that concerns me, say a medical condition that I'm seeing on my body, or say for example, I'm training for marathon right now. So how to improve my running?
You're training for marathon?
Yeah, I'm training for marathon.
Oh my God.
Like, all these things I will look up on the internet long enough to have a basic understanding of it before I consult a professional. It's not that I don't trust them, it's like I need to know the basic idea or the framework of how this thing that I'm concerned about works first. Then when I go to a professional, I get to ask better questions in a way and also help me better understand the situation, because one of my lecturers told us during uni is we always do research on the internet, but we don't go and speak to someone that has the first-hand experience. So when I have collected enough information, I get to ask deeper questions to help me better understand the concern that I'm having. So that is adding on to what Don is doing, like the due diligence. With that, you get to make better decisions and judgments.
Yeah. And I'm not disagreeing with you, just for clarity's sake. Right. I am in broad agreement. I just think it's a bit more complicated than how people put it.
Need to be more than the paper itself.
Yeah. You kind of have to go out there and do that, right? And I would argue that sometimes we think too highly of ourselves. Like we think we know. Right? Like who are we to go and like shop around with the professionals and then come back and say, I don't trust any of them.
People spend 6 to 8 years to learn. You spend like 3 hours to learn about it.
Yeah, like who are we, right? Like on some level, you have to like check your abilities and check your biases at the door, right? On some level, and these things, right, are quite hard to definitively say. Oh, under this bracket, right? Okay, you can take your own view. Or under this bracket, right? No, you cannot take your own view, right? So it is what it is, lah, right? And on the internet, right? You search hard enough, you can find agreement on all sides, right? There will always be people that agree with your view. So you go in with that bias. I'm here just to validate my view. Like, how informative is it gonna get? Right? How much is it going to help you? Right? So on some level, I will argue that you have to trust a professional, right? And it's just how you go about doing it. And how do you then develop an idea like within this bracket, this professional, I can trust them in this, right? And don't spill it to other things. Because a lot of people like to ask their favorite lawyer, hey, you got doctor recommend? So it's like, or some people love to do that. Yeah, trust by association. People love to do that, right? Like your best friend.
You know why it works, right? Because like your favorite lawyer whom you trust is like the accreditor of that doctor.
He's more professional than me in something, so he might know someone that is more professional than the people I know.
Arguably, you will be more professional than him or her in another thing, right? So who are you to then discount your own personal view of it?
It goes both ways.
Right, yeah. So I think that is a big no-no in my world, right? Like you cannot ask a lawyer to recommend, a doctor. If you want to go and suss it out, take a while, especially when all these people are important in your life, right? They do form your core team in trying to get you further in your life, right? Like don't be too lazy, right? Just ask around. shop around?
I think one beauty of how the scene has developed and the maturity of society is definitely that with all these sagas coming out, we're also seeing people not blame the wrongdoer 100%. We're also seeing, voices coming out to say like, maybe she was overly triggered by too many kids. Maybe they're more a bit understanding. Okay, although like what the final judgment and the punishment is up to the courts to determine. But you tend to see more balanced voices. It's not an upfront, this person evil or devil or whatever. It used to be very personal attack, but now we're starting to see more. And I feel like in general, we're starting to understand the importance of having some element of self-responsibility. The parents are starting to understand that, sometimes my kid just don't like to drink water. To avoid it, waterboarding is just wrong. But to avoid it going to that point where the teacher gets so triggered anyway, I also need to start from the home. I need to try and make it fun for them to drink water at home as well, because whatever happens in school will be similar. Yeah, just that the person handling is in different ways. So you can't control the teacher, but you can control how your child reacts to the water, and that hopefully will change something.
Wait, whatever you're saying is based on what you see on social media, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
The voices, if you look at the comments, right,
maybe
you see it's a bit more balanced. No.
So it's
I never go on
nothing
TikTok.
Okay.
I realized the comments generally more toxic. I think like in general, maybe because like the audience, at least on Facebook, on Reddit, I was seeing more balanced voices.
Don, you're on Facebook.
Of course the negativity is still
Facebook.
a lot.
Aren't you on Facebook? Wow.
I'm not on Facebook anymore. I given
I'm
up
still
my
on Facebook.
Yeah.
I was thinking a lot of parents say like, we need to investigate. It's really just wrong. It's downright wrong. Abuse and violence is just wrong. But maybe she was
What is
triggered.
causing it is something that we need to investigate.
Was it the child who, what also? Like there were questions being asked instead of just an outright accusal. So I think that is a good sign of the environment, that parents are also starting to recognize our own responsibility in everything. And this is just on, it was one preschool kid saga, right? But even let's say if we look at medical, we go to the doctor and I say, I have this. The doctor asks you, how are you feeling today? What are you experiencing? You name the 4 symptoms that you have. He gives you a medical opinion based on these 4 symptoms that you have described to him. And if he can visually see or hear or spot anything on you. But if you have another symptom that you never say, it could change the whole diagnosis completely.
Yes.
And then now the person say, that doctor's a fraud. Anyhow say, I got this condition when actually it is this. And then the person don't realize, because you withheld this one symptom, that would have changed the entire diagnosis. Yeah. And I think we need to recognize it's a both side story. Yeah. But yet at the same time, I start, especially after becoming a mom and going to the doctor so often, I realize the symptoms are almost always the same. Sore throat, runny nose, cough. And then this and fever, and this can be COVID-19, it can be the adenovirus, it can be tonsillitis, it can be, so many different things with all the same symptoms. But how it differentiates them, sometimes it's just a PCR test. Oh, got anyone around you COVID? Or have, then maybe it is COVID. Maybe the adenovirus is because the school has an outbreak. Maybe tonsillitis because this one I just learned. My doctor said you can feel here, swollen, like grape, got lump. Then the fever tends to be concentrated here.
Don't have.
Then tonsillitis. Then I'm checking yourself now.
I just got a flu, that's it.
Yeah, so like sometimes it's really just the one lack, the one thing that's missing that changes everything.
We might not know if this symptom matters or not.
Exactly. So we cannot fully trust the professionals in that sense either, because what they work with is the information that we give them.
Yeah, I like
we need to
point.
understand that we are the ones who have to also be responsible for what we give them, right? Imagine you drop off your kid at a normal preschool and you withhold the information that actually your kid is autistic. The way they deal with the kids for autism versus
it's different.
It's very different.
A lot of difference.
Yeah,
yes.
so the teacher would then think that your child is the same as everyone else, apply that same techniques. It doesn't work, then an incident happened, then you go and blame the teacher. But actually, maybe it's the parent because never say.
Yeah.
Right? So we need to recognize.
Yeah, fair. I think, and I want to throw in the idea that if you want to get to that kind of like honesty of information, right? It takes some time to build towards that. Like whichever professional that you work with, like if you go to a therapist, right, or you go to even a financial professional, right, you don't trust them at first, you won't tell them everything. But if you don't tell them everything, right, it cannot be sorted. right? Like they don't have an objective view of the situation. But it is a process. It's also hard to meet the person first time, tell them everything, right? Like crazy. Like why would you tell them everything? So I think there's some level of that kind of process where first you select the professional that you want to work with. Then after you select the professional that you want to work with, you need to build that trust and relationship with them.
And openness.
Yeah. And then eventually they get enough information to give you an objective view based on their profession, right? And then if you work with therapists before, especially, you will know, right? If you don't tell them everything, there's really nothing that they can do. They can guess.
The professional therapist can't do much for you either.
And they know where is it, aga, but it's not enough information.
You're
for
helping
them
to help your situation.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I think that's that. Okay, maybe in closing, I got one last question for you. All right. So we have kind of established like how do you trust, like where do you go with
what element, don't 100%.
How to think about it. I love it. Like, I think it's very good, right? But when do you re-evaluate your trust for the professional?
When an incident happens, I think usually, you see, when we do the work to, like you said, find the right professional to work with, build that trust and all, then, if you always, don't trust, always on tenterhooks also, very tiring, right? So after a while, you would then lean towards, it won't be 100%, but you lean towards like, okay, I leave them in your care because I trust already. We build up that trust. But when an incident happens to then break that trust, then that's when we reevaluate. And that's what is happening now, right? With the Kinderland saga, people are reevaluating the trust that they place in premium preschools. Because they expect, okay, if it's in the government,
especially
cheaper
premium preschools, right?
Then okay, fine, you can argue, price is what you pay, value is what you get, whatever. But premium preschool, now the discussion is, I'm paying so much money, but yet it happens in a premium preschool. So then how can they're reevaluating that trust, right? Today ran a really great article on that topic, and I think everyone should be reading it. But exactly, so when incidents happen, I think that's when we reevaluate. And we need to always be looking out for signs that may suggest that we should reevaluate.
Great.
Yeah, like you may trust the preschool teacher, but if suddenly one day your child comes back with marks on their hands, go and question. Don't wait for an incident to happen. Start questioning first. If the medical doctor says something that seems to be, no, really? Question them on the spot. Right? Don't immediately take wholesale.
Great. Love today, by the way. Yeah, today covered my views about the CPF changes. So I love today. I mean, I love the things they cover. Yeah. What about you?
Back to the question of when do we reevaluate?
Yes.
Right? I think how they, similar to what Don said, how they do crisis control, or when something that is challenging their profession, like you trust them all the time, that there was something else you brought up and they wasn't responding very well, or it's out of their expectation, and how they handled it, that will show how well they can handle situations that is unplanned. And that would make you feel that they are more professional, I hope.
So single point of failure is enough for you to reevaluate your trust for the person?
Start reevaluating.
Yeah.
You will like maybe go from 80% to 60% to see again whether I can go back to 80 or even higher.
Fair.
That's a great.
If you handle well, obviously you go even higher score, right?
Yeah. Because for me, a single point of failure can be a random error. It can be all sorts of reasons why the person suddenly that time like.
Correct. So you could go from 80 to 60, then you realize it's a Singapore error, so you go back to 80.
Up, right? So yeah. So I think that is something for all of us to think about, right? Like how do you evaluate a person? And trust is not just in professions, in your day-to-day life, in your workplace, the people around you, the relationship that you have,
the orders that your boss gives you.
Yeah, right. So can a single point of failure just because one time you throw everything out?
No lah,
right,
very extreme.
No, but you've seen that, there are many people that do that, right? So it's just something for us to think about. Random errors cannot be prevented. Once it's systemic, you can solve it.
One more I want to bring up is a random error, right? Does it matter to you guys how they react towards the random error that they encounter?
Of course it does. It does matter. It's just for me, right? That one time cannot like
not functioning.
Cannot just take the whole thing throw out just because of that one time. But if this one time become 2 times, 3 times, is repeated.
Like did they admit that I wasn't doing very well that day?
Yeah.
Because some will try to smoke it.
Yeah.
So I have this very lengthy, I was so pissed off with the Kinderland's PR response. I was like, this is going down in the textbooks for all students in communications and how to not handle crises.
Yeah. So much for premium.
I know my university confirmed going to take this and put it into the syllabus already. But anyway, it was a massive damage, massive failure to control, right? And the way he responded was just, Yeah, so I was so pissed off because I studied that. I wrote this entire response on what they should have issued instead. Which one of it, the number one, was apologizing and taking accountability. You're not apologizing for the person's character issue. Right? Or if they think maybe they're now wondering whether it's a mental thing, that's why. So she's at IMH or something like that now, I read, right? I think they're checking whether it could be something related to mental that might help to, lessens the charge and the judgment given to her. But, it's not about owning and saying, yeah, I take on full responsibility for this person's wrongdoing. It's about taking the responsibility that, yes, I should have done better. I'm sorry that this happened. That we should have done better if we had done this, but we did not. This is what we have learned from this and are going to implement. That's just standard PR response to almost every crisis, isn't it? You can
bare
never
minimum.
work. Yeah, bare minimum, but that was not what happened in this case. And I think how
I'm so intrigued by it, like, wow.
Exactly. How every professional reacts to it should always have that element, because you can be the best at your job, you can be the best doctor in the world, but there will be a virus that you've never heard of before, like COVID, come up, and then you misdiagnose the first COVID patient that walked into your door because never existed, never knew what, right? Then later on, when you're found out, you're exposed, as they say, okay, or you're cancelled, even the most extreme one, then own up. Just say, yes, I am apologetic. I'm sorry that I misdiagnosed the person, and then explain the stats. I learned from this that, there is this virus called COVID-19, and now I know, knowing this, I will look out for blah, blah, blah.
And
right?
the actions moving forward that they can promise is very important.
And I think that's not just actually professionals, everybody lah. Right? Everybody, when any mistakes, any incidents happen, that should be bare minimum. Yeah, so how the professional response is really important. And I think also the organization, how they respond and acknowledge while disentangling themselves from one black sheep is crucial if they want to do like brand management and protection.
If not, you will really associate that black sheep with how the whole
Exactly.
organization is doing.
Yeah, and I think this is where insurance has done a pretty good job. People still trust and are still buying and still see a necessity of insurance, even though there are there are a few black sheep agents here and there, right? The industry may be tarnished, but not completely broken.
I would argue it's more than a few, but that's a different discussion. Yes. So thank you for your time, and let us know, what professional you trust. When do you not trust a person? Write in the comment section. We'll see you in another week. Take care. Bye.